and welcome back to another episode of Epic Exchanges. This week, I get to welcome my friend Shahin, who has written a children's book. And like I've shared, we're sharing children's books once a month because they are stories that help us connect to our children, help our children connect to the world in a different way. And it's a good way for us to share things that we've learned. So Shahin, welcome. I'm super excited to finally have you on here, but why don't we start by you introducing yourself to our audience?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Kelly, for having me here. So I'm Shahin, and I'm a mindfulness meditation teacher. And I primarily like to work with parents and teachers and kids and talking about all things mindfulness and about contemplation as a whole, about different contemplative practices. So it could be dance or music or art, and all through all of these practices with a mindfulness lens. And parenting in particular is close to my heart because I think we raise the children that we have based on what we know. And so if we can be a little more graceful in our parenting and our teaching journey, then I think that we have children who are more self-accepting and kinder to themselves and to the community around them.
Great. Well, I am super glad to have you here. And I don't want to stop us from having you read and share the book that you wrote for our audience. So I'm going to suggest that you just take it away.
All right. So the book that I wrote is called Ariya Makes Friends with Rain. And it's about Ariya learns about a mindfulness term, which is RAIN, R-A-I-N, with the help of her new friend. It's dedicated to my niece, Ariya's mom, Rahima, who passed away shortly after childbirth. So it starts with, Ariya felt like there was rain hovering over her head. The gray cloud felt like it was heavy, hanging over her. She often felt this cloud over her head, especially when she was worried or scared. Sometimes she could feel it grow bigger and darker the more she felt concerned or afraid. If she felt angry, upset, or sad, the cloud would rumble and thunder. Despite how big it grew and how loud it became, no one else could see or hear it. It was just Ariya and her rain cloud. Ariya's cloud wouldn't always be there. It seemed to float away when she was happily playing with her friends or eating dinner with her family. Sometimes it was so small she hardly even noticed it. But one day, this cloud over Ariya's head grew so big and thundered so loud, she couldn't think or focus on anything else. It started roaring and grumbling as soon as she found out the terrible news. There was a birthday party, and Ariya's friends were there. They were all having fun, everyone but Ariya. All she could think about was her friends laughing and playing without her. She thought about the food and the cake and the yummy treats there might be. And with each thought, the cloud grew bigger and bigger. The cloud turned a dark, murky color as she imagined the games they might be playing and all the fun she was missing. As soon as Ariya started to think about all the fun she was missing out on, it began to rain. The rain poured and poured from the cloud. The more she imagined the birthday party, the faster and heavier the raindrops fell. Ariya was about to throw a tantrum, kick her legs, and scream when a single raindrop fell onto her nose. It rested there in a perfect circle. Ariya watched it for a while, fascinated by how shiny it was, when she noticed something strange. The raindrop began to blink. Its two round eyes stared up at Ariya. The raindrop rippled and smiled. "Not very nice weather, is it?" said the raindrop, hopping down onto Ariya's knee. Ariya shook her head and sniffled. "It can make you feel quite sad," the raindrop noticed Ariya's tears. "Do you know what I do when I feel sad?" "What do you do?" asked Ariya. "I just remember my name." The raindrop jumped up in excitement. "I'll help you. My name is Rain, and each letter in my name stands for something important. R is for recognize, A is for allow, I is for investigate, and N is for nurture," said the little raindrop. The first step is to recognize that something has happened. Something has made you feel sad. "I feel left out," replied Ariya. "All my friends have gone to a birthday party and I wasn't invited." Ariya felt as though all her friends had forgotten about her. She recognized that it made her feel sad and lonely. "What do you usually do when you feel this way?" Raindrop asked. Ariya's eyes widened. She could feel tears behind her eyes, ready to come rushing out. She said, "I get really angry and I cry. Sometimes I feel like screaming and shouting." Ariya felt a little bit calmer, being able to notice how she was feeling took her mind off the birthday party. And she liked the feeling of not being upset and angry. Being able to breathe and notice her feeling was calming for her. She allowed the feeling to be there with her. It was less tiring and felt better. So I've got these pages mixed around, I just noticed, because Raindrop said, "How about this time you allow the feeling to sit with you as a friend?" Raindrop hopped down and sat on Ariya's lap. "Imagine the feeling is where I am now instead of screaming and shouting. How about you take a deep breath in and see if you can make friends with this feeling? Say hello to your feeling and let it be there with you." Ariya took a deep breath in and exhaled out as if she was blowing out a candle. "Hello, feeling," Ariya whispered. "I see you. I can feel you inside me." And that's when Ariya started to feel a bit calmer. Being able to notice how she was feeling took her mind off a little bit. And she was able to breathe and notice her feeling was calming for her. "You're doing well, Ariya," Raindrop beamed. "Now, do you remember what the I in rain stands for?" "Investigate," said Ariya proudly. "That's right," Raindrop grinned. "We can investigate and find out where the feeling is sitting in your body." She's got the magnifying glass out. Ariya imagined she was a spy with a magnifying glass. She pictured it hovering over her head. She scanned over her neck, which often felt tense or stiff when she was worried. She looked closer and found the upset feeling tickling her throat. She remembered feeling very hot on her forehead and cheeks when she was angry, but her upset feeling wasn't hiding there. Ariya kept searching and scanning her body for feelings. "Where do my feelings sit?" she wondered. She swept the magnifying glass over her chest, and there sat happiness. It swirled and danced, and Ariya remembered loving the feeling of being joyful and happy. "Gotcha," Ariya exclaimed. "The upset feeling is hiding in my throat and in my tummy." It had made itself very comfortable in her tummy. "Yay, Ariya," said Raindrop. "You're nearly there. Just one more step to go. The last thing we have to do is nurture." Raindrop explained, which is just a fancy way of saying looking after or being kind to yourself. When you tumble or fall, and get a scratch or cut, what makes you feel better? Raindrop looked up at Ariya. Well, Ariya pondered. Mamaji, her grandma, usually gives me a hug, tells me it's okay, asks me where it hurts, kisses it better, and then puts a Band-Aid on it for me. Aw, that's sweet. We just need to do the same to help with the hurt you're feeling inside. But how do I do that? Said Ariya. It's easy, Raindrop smiled. Put your hand on your heart. Ariya placed her left hand over her heart. Perfect. Sometimes it helps to tell yourself that it's okay to feel this way. Ariya reminded herself that she was okay and she was safe. The warmth of her hand felt like she was giving herself a hug. And Ariya loved hugs, especially from her dad, her ma, and her mamaji. Even though feeling upset and sad might hurt in a different way than a fall, a bump, or a blister, both kinds of hurts need time to heal, said Raindrop. Instead of a Band-Aid or cream, we can bring love and kindness to ourselves as we soothe ourselves. It's like giving ourselves a big hug to help our big feelings. Ariya took a deep breath and focused on the warmth by her heart. She imagined she was talking to herself like a friend and reminded herself that she was loved, that she was special, she was kind, and she was amazing. She thought about a boy she had seen one day during recess who was crying and sniffling. Ariya had comforted him, asking him what was wrong and sitting with him until he felt better. Ariya realized that lots of other kids must get upset sometimes, and there were ways she could calm herself, just like she had done with the boy at recess. I can do it, said Ariya. I can be kind to myself. Well done, Ariya. Raindrop jumped up and down with joy. You've completed every step in my name. Ariya felt strong and filled with happy energy. She was okay. She also remembered that it's hard for everyone to be invited to parties, and her friends are still her friends. She now knew what to do when she was feeling sad, upset, angry, frustrated, and all the feelings that felt like there was a cloud over her head. All she had to do was remember rain. I'll always be here to help you, Raindrop was beginning to fade. Happily, the cloud Ariya had been feeling over her head had also disappeared. Raindrop vanished as quickly as it had arrived and left a rainbow. Ariya smiled quietly. She felt as calm and bright as the colors above her. Whenever Ariya felt her cloud, it reminded her of Raindrop, and she knew she could practice rain. Recognize, allow, investigate, and nurture all her feelings. And then there's a parent guide for rain at the end of the book. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much for sharing. What a great story. And I would love to dive in a little bit more about mindfulness and the purpose for writing the book. So first, could you give us a quick explanation or definition of what mindfulness is? Because it can be one of those words that we hear a lot of and that people don't really know what it is.
Yeah, so mindfulness is, it has become a buzzword, right? And it's about being present at this moment, right now, without judgment, with kindness. Oftentimes we're present in the moment, but then there's thoughts that are chattering in our brains. And we're thinking about, oh, yeah, no, it's raining outside. I don't love it. Or there's always a sense of judgment. And we get used to, oh, this person I met at the grocery store, she didn't smile at me. Or, oh, this person was so kind of rude to me, or this person was nice to me. Or so we always have judgments throughout our day. So mindfulness is about being present in this moment without judgment and with kindness. So when we have the judgments, right, because they will come up, to allow ourselves to be kind and to say, okay, so there it is. I notice a piece of judgment here, right? And being kind to ourselves with that. So it's not just about being present. So there's that added layer to it.
Right.
Which takes time. It takes practice.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
How does mindfulness help us?
It helps us in so many ways. So it allows us to be with, just like Ariya did, to be with the feelings and feel those feelings, because oftentimes there's so many scientific research that goes around benefits. So the concrete benefits are, it thickens our cortex. It allows us to create that space between our brain, our amygdala, which is what I tell the kids is it's our alarm system. So when something happens and the alarm system goes out, the fight, flight, freeze system, and our prefrontal cortex, the front part of the brain, is the smart part of the brain. It's where the executive decisions start happening, right? That's where we make those executive decisions, the wise decisions, or of, okay, I wrote this email, but should I send it? It allows for that gap. There's a beautiful quote by Viktor Frankl in his book, Man's Search for Meaning. And he says, between stimulus and response, there is a space. And within that space, we have the choice to choose our response, right? Mm-hmm. So mindfulness gives us that gap, that space to say, how do I really want to show up? Who do I want to be in this conversation, or in a conversation that's getting heated?
And so when we take that space, when we practice mindfulness, how can it change our lives?
So the way it changes our lives is, I'll read you something that came across my desk this morning. It's with from Brene Brown. Okay. She says, I think midlife is when the universe gently places her hands upon your shoulders, pulls you close, and whispers in your ear, I'm not screwing around. It's time. All this pretending and performing, these coping mechanisms that you've developed to protect yourself from feeling inadequate and getting hurt, has to go. That's our midlife. Your armor is preventing you from growing into your gifts. I understand that you needed these protections when you were small. I understand that you believed your armor could help you secure all of the things you needed to feel worthy of loving and belonging, but you're still searching and you're more lost than ever. Time is growing short. There are unexplored adventures ahead of you. You can't live the rest of your life worried about what other people think. You were born worthy and of love and belonging. Courage and daring are coursing through you. You were made to live and love with your whole heart. It's time to show up and be seen. So Brene Brown is talking about this in midlife. And what I say is, as the reason I'm so passionate about parents practicing mindfulness with kids is, it's going to be too late to show up with our gifts. And what mindfulness does is it allows us to say, where are these feelings sitting? And how can I deal with these feelings, instead of constantly having a cloud over our heads and squishing down the emotions that we're feeling? And research shows that when we squish down our feelings, it causes chronic illness. So your question was, how can it help us? Well, it helps us by allowing us to become accepting of the feelings that we have, and to be able to see the gifts that are within us, rather than squishing them down, and to just shed a light on who we are.
Well, I guess the most immediate benefit or help would be, if we're not reacting to the stimulus, we're actually where we're choosing how we respond to whatever that stimulus is, by
Yeah.
going through those steps, we actually have stronger relationships and better communication.
Yeah.
And with ourselves, with our families, with our friends, and so on.
Yeah. So that's really powerful, right? Like the relationships are really powerful. But the key thing, and I think you've touched on that, is the main thing is to have a more powerful relationship with ourselves. And when we can relate to ourselves in an authentic way, what mindfulness actually does is it helps us see, okay, what triggers me? What are my habitual patterns of behavior? How come I always get reactive when somebody says this? Or why is it when somebody does this that I get reactive? So that gap, that pause, allows us to see our patterns of behavior. And when we can see our patterns of behavior, we can start looking at ourselves and going, oh, okay, I get it. Increasing our relationship with ourselves. And then we can show up for others around us in a more authentic way.
That makes a lot of sense and super helpful. So why a children's book?
You know, when my niece died, she passed away, and it's hard for me to talk about it, but she passed away, but the only thing she ever really wanted was to have a child. And she passed away shortly after Ariya was born. And she was in a coma, so she didn't really meet Ariya in her true essence. And I wanted to leave something for Ariya in honor of her mom, because her mom was the most spectacular person. She had all the gifts, and she was the kindest person. And she would have been all over raising her daughter with a sense of presence. And so I wanted to write something. It was just something that I thought, what can I leave this child? Because I'm not going to be around forever. And what can I leave this child in honor of her mom? That she might not get it right now. She's 4 now. She might not understand it right now, but her dad reads it to her. And, and all the kids that, and for all the moms, actually.
I love the setup in the book of Ariya realizing she wasn't invited to the birthday party, because I don't know a single person who hasn't had that experience as a child and remembers it as an adult. And it's very relatable. People can put themselves in that position, but then you give, the help of saying, here's what you do when you're feeling all of this. So I can see how it could be so helpful for parents and for children when, in particular, anytime, but in particular, when they are going through a disappointment like this, or the feeling left out and things like that, because it's going to happen. So what you showed that you had like a parent's guide at the end. How do you hope parents use the book?
Ideally, what I would like is for parents not to teach the concept, but to live the concept of RAIN. And because as parents, we get, or caregivers or guardians or aunts and uncles, we get short with the children around us, or the young adults around us, right? And so wouldn't it be nice when that happens to say out loud, you know what, I'm going to practice RAIN. I'm going to recognize that I'm feeling this way, and I'm going to allow that feeling to sit with me. And I'm going to investigate why that happened. So I need a moment, and I'm just going to bring some kindness to myself for now. Wouldn't that be nice for a 10-year-old to hear that from a parent who's just yelled at the 10-year-old? and to say, okay, mom needs a break, and state these things, and then just take a rest, take a pause, so that when something happens with that 10-year-old and the 10-year-old lashes out, we model the behavior we want to see with our children. And that becomes intrinsic in their lives. That's what I would like.
I love that. And I think it's just proof that children's books aren't just for children.
No.
And I love it when a children's book has that bigger goal, that bigger message that we can all, no matter our age or our stage in life, we can take something from it. We can learn something and start to apply it to our lives. So thank you. Thank you for writing this book and for sharing it with us. How can people find the book?
So it's on Amazon. You can plug in, or I can send you a link, but you can type in my name, Shahin Najak, or you can type in Ariya Makes Friends with Rain, and it will pop up.
Great. Well, we will.
Yeah, or you can find it on my website.
Oh. We will be sure to include it in our show notes, both here on YouTube and for the audio version of the podcast. And on our social media channels, we will link your website and any other of your social media channels that you would like to have people come find you and to perhaps even come work with you.
Absolutely. Yeah. And there's actually on my website and in my Instagram, there's a 30-day daily mindfulness practices that you don't have to sit on the cushion to do. And it's an ebook. It's got about 7 videos in it as well, and some daily practices for 30 days. You can pick and choose your practices when you're out and about, and just short practices that you can practice anytime. So that's also on there.
Fantastic. We'll make sure that link's out there if people want to start just adding a little bit of mindfulness into their lives in different ways, because different things work for different people. So
that's right.
Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. If you could leave our listeners with one thing that you want them to remember or take away from watching us or listening to us, what would that be?
Be kind to yourself. Be kind to yourself.
Yeah. So important. And we don't do it enough.
Yeah. Notice the chatter of how we're not kind to ourselves.
Well, thank you. Everybody, be kind to yourself. Give yourself some grace. Thank you, Shahin. And I look forward to everybody reading the book to their kids, reading it for themselves. So go get the book.
Yeah. Thanks, Kelly.
Thanks, everyone.